carrot.
Can you spell it out?
Parthim, carrot.
Parthian carrot, you means?
Maybe.
Parthian or Parthin? These are two different carrots.
Oh.
No, matlab these are two different terms. One is Parthian and one is Parthin. Thin or and Thean. So which one are you asking?
I am asking first one, Parthium, Parthium.
So Parthian carrots are usually it's a name given to a type of carrot which is little stubbed, like it's not very. So carrots are normally very thin and long, right? Even if they are orange or red, they come in all different, from yellow to red, they come in all different colors. But you know that the actual wild carrot from which carrots were domesticated is not red. It's so much dark in color that it almost looks like it's violet or black, just like you have seen turnip.
Turnip, yeah.
So turnip is like that's also domesticated, but wild turnip is very very violet, like something of the color that the shirt I am wearing. You understood?
Yeah, yeah.
Parthian carrots are a kind of carrots, if I'm not wrong. They are stubbed. They are little smaller ones with very light. They are light colored, like orangish to yellow texture, and they are small. Stubbed.
Okay.
Yeah. They are used for. They are soft. So normally carrots are very very like they are hard because they have lots of roughages, so they are used in salads. But Parthian carrots are softer and they are used for some exotic dishes and things. So that is Parthian, Thin.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Basically, it comes from the Asian subcontinent region, and it's not like from the area around India and the subcontinent. It comes from there, then it's exported to Europe and other countries.
Thank you, sir. Okay, so we can continue.
Yeah. And the Parthian carrot, that the other thing, sometimes it's also called for. I'll talk about that later. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Okay. So before we begin, again, let's go through a quick recap of what we did in the last class. We have finished vegetative propagation, I believe, right? Both natural and artificial in the last
Yes.
class. Yes. Today I'll also be discussing with you, because the asexual mode we are finishing. So I'll also be discussing with you certain questions, some high order thinking skills or entrance based questions that comes from this topic. Okay. That will be very helpful to both of you. Okay. So would you like to give me a brief summary of what we did in the last class? Hiba, if you can speak in this class, if you would like to give a summary of vegetative propagation. You're there, Hiba? Hiba, can you speak? See, in this class, we are just three of us. And I would not like if I am the only one doing all the talking. Right? Fair enough, no? Hiba, if you're speaking, you are mute, Hiba. So, Zaid, would you like to
Yes.
start?
Yes. First I will discuss like what is like vegetative propagation. It is basically the it is uh, it is a type of reproduction. Sorry. Propagation, vegetative propagation,
It's a type of asexual reproduction. You are correct.
asexual reproduction.
Yes.
It is a type of asexual reproduction found in plants. It is of two types: natural and artificial. Then in natural, no human interaction is there. Interference, sorry. That's not. No human interference is there. It can be of three types from leaves. We took the example of bryophyllum. In bryophyllum, there are sprouts of new plants that grow on the edges of the new leaf on the leaf, and after the growth of the spores, they fall on the ground and form a new plant. In the roots, tubers like they are swollen modified roots which can grow in the,
So tubers are simply swollen and modified roots, right?
yeah.
So made you write certain other things.
Yes, sir.
When you are giving me a quick update or a recap, give it from your notes, because remember all of the things are not written here, but I dictate you a lot
Mhm.
of other things. Okay. Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
So we took the example of potato and uh,
So
yeah,
what is potato again? Zed, what structure is potato itself?
potato. It is a stem, modified stem. And one more example we took, it was sweet potato, but it is a root.
Yes.
So yeah, so they grow under the ground, and uh, through stems like no, in first potato, on the potato they grow sprouts like when they are swollen, after some time they grow sprouts on the potato, and the sprouts can form a new plant
That
itself.
is that is not tubers. That is called eye of the potato. The eye buds.
Yeah, I was.
That is something entirely different, because potato itself is a stem. So eye buds are formed on the stem, on the potato.
Yeah.
Tubers are what comes out of the stem as roots. So those are the swollen and modified parts. Okay.
Okay. Okay. So yeah, through stem, we took the example of runner stem, those who grow horizontal, and they bend inside the soil and form a new plant. Then we took the in bulbs, we took the example of onion and ginger. Sorry,
Yeah, garlic.
ginger,
Garlic.
garlic. Uh, onion, they are modified stem, disc like shaped, and leaf are also modified, fleshy leaves. Then roots are roots roots are, I think, same much. Yeah. But bulbs, like they grow apical buds, those who give rise to leaves and flowers. In the center, they are and lateral buds, which are present at the corners. They grow stems and branches and shoots, like both are shoots.
Yes, right.
Then artificial.
Okay, let me give you one thing here. So whatever concept I will teach you in class, whatever modes of reproduction on any other thing I will teach you in class, if it is a concept like this through roots, leaves, so I mostly, because of limited time in the class and I have to focus on concepts, then examples, because examples you can just Google and find out, right?
Yes.
So please do find out at least 3 to 4 examples of each concept that we study. Okay, that will help you to keep a broader examples in your knowledge. So like through leaves, I have given you a bryophyllum. Try to figure out if there are other plants apart from bryophyllum. Okay, this is the one normally is given in the books and like teachers use to as an example, but it's not that all the time they will only give you bryophyllum in the questions. Okay.
Okay.
Also, apart from the examples we have discussed, you also should find other examples. Same for bulb and stem. Okay, let's go to artificial. Yes, continue.
In artificial, there is a interference of a human being. It can be of four types: cutting, a point of plant, like specifically a stem, is cut of a leaf is cut and planted in the soil. Uh, okay. Is planted in the soil, and after some time, like the the planted part of the plant grows a new plant,
Yes, right.
completely new. Yeah.
So the
Sometimes,
planted part, yes. So the
yes,
planted part itself is the stem and must be having leaves also, right? In case of rose, when we cut a branch or a stem and you put it in the soil, all it needs to develop now is root system because it has a shoot system. Now shoot
yes,
system will also develop more because there is only one branch planted, like one single stick is planted. So there will be new branches coming, new leaves coming, new flowers coming. So it's not like the whole plant has to develop, but the plant has to develop both root system first and then the shoot system. Okay.
okay.
Yes.
So sometimes we can treat it with the growth hormones, plant growth hormones. Okay. In grafting, the upper part of the one plant grows on the root system of the another plant.
Yes.
So they should be in proper symmetry. Can we say like that?
Should
Proper
have,
symmetry of
yes,
each other.
or you can say that both the plants should be compatible. Compatible
Compared.
in the sense like they should be compatible in shape, size, and also with respect to their anatomy. Remember, I told you with this diagram I drew here that their
Yes.
xylem and phloem
Xylem and phloem.
anatomy should be matching. Otherwise, it's just like even if you stick the plants together, if they are not able to, if both the shoot and the root system is not compatible, and they are not able to behave like one single plant, there is no point of it, right?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay. Then next is layering. The stem of the plant is bent to the ground and covered with soil. Then adventitious roots emerge from the plant parts covered with the soil. Uh, this attached stem with developing roots is known as the
Yes. In
layers.
grafting, you forgot to mention one more thing, that why it is better than cutting.
Why it is better than cutting? Okay.
What is the advantage?
Uh, hmm, yeah, advantage is this, like there are two advantage or and disadvantage. So first, advantage is like in short period of time, uh, it can grow more easily and it can be nourishable.
It can
Yeah,
start giving you fruits
start giving
and flowers,
fruits.
whatever
Yeah.
you want. For
Yes.
whatever motive we are doing grafting, it gets fulfilled very shortly because if you see here, the plant just have to heal the wound and accept each other. They do not, so and they are good to go, right? They do
Yes.
not have to right from the beginning grow different structures. Of course, other parts like in the shoot also there'll be more branches coming out, but that's just normal development happening, correct? So it's
Yes.
faster mode, yes. And what is the disadvantage?
The disadvantage is this, like the viruses or infections can be happening in the plant.
Mhm.
Or yeah,
Okay.
or sometimes it does not grow. Yeah.
Yes. If there's no compatibility, it may fail, but
Yeah.
we have to make sure. And also, one of the disadvantages I told you that it is limited. We cannot do it for all the plants we want to propagate because all
Mhm.
plants are not compatible with all other plants, right?
Yes.
Yes. Then layering, yes, layering and tissue culture.
The stem of layering the stem of the plant is bent and it should be soft, soft stem of the plant.
Flexible stem.
That yeah, the
Soft.
halves soft and
Soft is not a good word because soft means softness in texture. Flexibility means, see,
flex.
a plant is never going to be soft, right?
No.
Soft is a rasgulla.
Yeah.
So a plant has to be stiff, but if it is hard, but if it is flexible, you can bend the branch. Yeah.
Yeah. So plant has to be flexible and like we have to put the plant's stem in the soil, but not completely. Its upper part should be outside. Okay. Then layered. The adventitious roots emerges from the plant parts covered with the soil. Okay. This attached stem with developing roots is known as a layer.
Yes.
Now tissue culture, we studied three types like de-differentiation, like
These are not types of tissue culture.
no, sorry.
These are three different processes
Steps.
that I first
Yeah,
explained you.
process.
Yes.
Yes, sir. Differentiation, like it is terminally differentiated cells. Okay, losing the divided cap. Sorry, they lose the dividing capability.
Yes.
So in de-differentiation, they acquire the dividing capability
Back.
again.
Yes.
Yeah, again back. And re-differentiation, again they lose the dividing capability. So it's like
There are,
a cycle.
yes. Right. Okay. And
So
this is where we finished. And tell me about tissue culture. What is tissue culture?
tissue culture is like like in propagating universally, most of the tissues type in a plant are differentiated except no. Tissue culture is used like for plants to grow a tissue in a laboratory, and then giving it certain hormones and nutrients. It can be developed into a new plant after some time.
Yes. So basically, we take tissues, and we also discussed what type of tissue should we take. So we should take meristematic tissues, the tissues which have active dividing capability. So that when we culture it, those tissues must have the capability to divide and give rise to other parts of the plant, right? Yes. Okay. So is it clear to you, Hiba? Hiba, could you hear the whole thing? Hiba, are you able to speak? Could not hear you. If you're having any issue, yes. Are you having issues with your microphone or something? You can write if you're having issues and then try to sort the issue, okay? Because you have to participate in the class. Otherwise, I will not know what are your difficulties as a teacher, and I will not be able to work on it. It will be difficult for me to access your uh, growth in the subject, okay? So please try to speak up in the class and participate in the discussion. Okay, so after tissue culture, we have finished tissue culture. There is one thing which, I remember one thing. So you asked about the Parthian thing, right, Zed? So it just came to my mind.
Yes.
I think you must be knowing, if you have some interest in history, that the region of the Persia, the Persian Empire, was used to call the Parthian Empire. Remember that?
Uh, I don't remember this. Yeah,
If you
maybe.
don't remember, I'm telling you, Persia. You know the where is Persia?
For sure, yeah, I have.
Like it's in the Asian subcontinent, right? The middle.
Yeah, it's
Yes,
Asian.
right. So Persia is the region from where these carrots actually used to be exported to other parts, and still they are called Parthian carrots because they come from that region. Okay.
Okay.
And by the way, carrot is a indigenous fruit, or you can say vegetable or plant of the Central Asia region. Okay. Then it got diversified to different other continents. So that's why they are
Okay.
called Parthian. So it just came to my mind. I thought you should know. Okay.
Thank you, sir.
So where did you find this word? On a,
It was in the textbook, but chapter 2, I think, maybe chapter 2.
oh, I thought so. Sometimes I see these terms like on these online platforms where you can buy grocery stuffs, and also in some shops. They sell carrots, and then they sell Parthian carrots and some other sorts of carrots. Yeah. Okay. So it's clear asexual mode of reproduction in lower organisms is also clear, in higher plants is also clear, no doubt in that, right? Right from budding to vegetative propagation, everything is clear, correct?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Now there's one more thing that we will discuss here, which is not a part of vegetative propagation, or like in lower organisms it happens, and it is called spore formation. You know about spores?
Yes.
So write down, we will be talking about spore formation. So spore formation is another mode of asexual reproduction. Now, what is spore formation? Basically, spore formation does not happen all the time. Okay, so it is not a mode of reproduction that can happen at any time or throughout the life cycle of an organism or a plant or a fungus, but it mostly happens when the situation, the surrounding or the environment is not favorable. Is it clear? So,
Yes.
so when there are unfavorable conditions, then some organisms, they start developing a sac-like structure, a bag-like structure in which they start forming spores. Okay, and even if the plant dies after that, so why do they do it? Because the organism has to ensure. So let's say, so for any organism, there will be a stalk. Spore structures are normally like this. There is a stalk, and on the top of it, there are sac-like structures, which are called sporangium. Okay. This is, I'm taking an example of a fungus, and you know that in fungus, they have root-like structures called hyphae, right? So this is hyphae, class 11th, fungi, kingdom fungi. Hyphae are the root-like networks present in a fungus. And this part is your stalk, or in case of fungi, this could also be called hyphae. And these are sporangium. This sac-like structure is called sporangium. Okay. Inside that sporangium, if this sporangium bursts out, you will see spores comes out. When it bursts, there are a lot of spores. So these are spores that comes out. Many times people have spore allergies. Okay, just like dust allergy and pollen allergy, they have spore allergies from a lot of fungal allergy. So if they breathe in these spores, their immune system shows a very exaggerating response against it. That is called allergy. But these are spores. Okay. Now write down a few things first, then we'll talk about it in detail. Spore formation is another mode of, or another way of asexual reproduction. Spore formation is another way of asexual reproduction. And in, so before going to sexual reproduction in plants, I'll just tell you one thing. So you know that plants that reproduce sexually, they produce pollen grains, right? Pollen grains are the male, yes, equivalent of a male gamete that goes and binds with the female part.
Yeah, it's produced inside the
anther.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah,
in the anther. Yeah. Yes, correct. So they have their own mechanisms to produce something which is equivalent to a spore or a male gamete, which is called pollen grains. So mostly spore formation takes place in those plants or in those organisms like fungi, which are non-flowering. Okay, which cannot produce flowers. Is it clear?
Yes.
Write down. It mainly occurs in non-flowering plants and fungi. So this here I have taken an example of a fungi. In non-flowering plants and fungi. If you remember class 11th, you have studied in gymnosperms, sporophyte and gametophyte. Structures called sporophytes. So there are angiosperms. Angiosperms are the plants that produce flowers, right? All flowering plants are called angiosperms, right?
Yes, sir.
And non-flowering plants are either gymnosperms, eridophytes, bryophytes. Anything? Are you recollecting those terms back? Yes. So in those plants, you must have read of a structure called sporophyte and gametophyte.
Yes.
Yes. So that is where they form spores. Okay. So in non-flowering plants and also in fungi. Now write down these organisms do not need male and female reproductive organs, right? Because if they are depending on spore formation, they do not need male and female organs, correct?
Yes.
They do not need male and female reproductive organs, as these spores which are released from the sporangium, these spores which are released from the sporangium, like in front of sporangium you can like sac like structure, you can write sac like structure, which are released from sporangium, develop into new plants or new organisms, develop into new plants or new organisms. Is it clear?
Yes.
Now, what is the advantage of spore formation? Can you think? One thing we know that it is asexual mode, because a single plant or a single parent where there is no concept of sex is involved, and the plant itself is making spores, and those spores, so the plant is making it under unfavorable conditions, because even if the plant dies, these sporangium just need to burst out and release these spores, right? And all these thousands of spores will fall on the ground, and the next time when the favorable conditions come, they will start germinating. Is it clear? Into new plants.
Yes.
So it's a simple asexual reproduction, because whatever the plant has, the plant will give the same genes, right? There is no variation. Whereas in case of male and female plants, where there are pollen grains fertilizing the ovary, then there are chances of recombination and variation, correct? Because it's a sexual mode of reproduction. So the advantage clearly is that it uses less energy, because you do not have to make gametes, then spend energy in transferring those gametes through one way or the other, and then start the whole sexual cycle and develop the zygote and the embryo and the seed and the plant, correct? It is simple one-step process. Make spores, those spores fall on the ground, and those spores make new organisms. Okay.
Okay.
This is why fungi is very, very successful as an organisms. And fungi, class 11th, you must have studied this term. Fungi are cosmopolitan. Have you heard this
Yes,
term?
sir.
What do we mean by cosmopolitan? Apart from, what is cosmopolitan? Which is present almost everywhere, right? And fungi is present almost everywhere. So that's why it's called cosmopolitan organisms. It's very, very opportunistic an organism. Wherever there is a little bit of humidity. Okay, let me tell you this interesting thing. So how many of you have seen, because this is very simple basic experiment they also talk about in junior classes, you take a bread and keep that bread in one corner of your kitchen. Clean that corner before you keep something there, okay? Even if you keep a bread piece anywhere where there is humidity, so take two bread pieces, keep one piece in the kitchen on a clean surface, and the other piece of the bread inside the refrigerator. After a few days, you will see greenish or whitish things growing on the bread which was kept in the kitchen, but the bread which is kept in the fridge is still intact and fine, right?
Yes.
So what happens to the bread which is in the kitchen?
Spore formation.
Fungus grows on it.
Yeah, fungus.
Okay, that's called the rhizopus, the common fungus that grows on it. But you clean that area, you clean that region. So where did that fungus come from? Was the fungus already present in the bread and was just waiting for the right temperature? In which case,
Yes.
are we eating fungus? No, right? So where did that
No.
fungus came from?
From the air.
From air. What is in the air?
Spores.
Exactly. This thing is in the air. It's everywhere. So spores are present everywhere. It just need right environment and conditions to grow. And when you keep a bread outside in humidity and normal temperature, then what happens is if the spore falls on it, then it will start getting nutrition because bread is nutritious. It will also start getting water because there is humidity around. It will also start developing and forming new fungus. Whereas you kept it in a fridge, first inside the refrigerator, spores will not enter, right? Because there is a door. Even if there are spores inside the refrigerator, they will not grow and develop because the temperature is very low and it's dry conditions, right? It's cold and dry. Refrigerators are cold and dry, right?
Yes.
Okay. So that's a classic experiment to tell that spores are present and fungi is cosmopolitan. It's just looking forward and waiting for the right place and the right conditions, and it will grow. A house which is closed for a very long time, let's say for 1 year, someone closed his or her house. So the house went through all the seasons, summer, winters, and then came rains, monsoon, and then again summer. So some water or humidity will be locked inside and no one will clean the house, right? And when after 1 year you go back to the house, you will see lots of fungus everywhere. Correct or not?
Yes, sir.
But when you are living in the house, you are constantly keeping it clean. You are not allowing the spores to deposit and grow. That's why there is no fungus. Make sense, people?
Yeah. Yes.
So they don't come out of thin air by magic. They are around, present around. Okay, write down next point. The majority of, so this is sporangium. And if I call plural, what is the plural of sporangium? Sporangia. Anything that ends with IUM, UM as a singular, ends with IA as a plural. This is simple rule of English. Stadium, stadia. Okay. Bacterium, bacteria. Sporangium, sporangia. Is it clear?
Yes.
So write down. Majority of sporangia produce haploid spores through meiosis. Majority of sporangia produce haploid spores through meiosis. So these spores are haploid. What do I mean by haploid? We have already discussed this, right? That's why we discussed this. Haploid is, we have discussed haploid, meiosis, mitosis, remember?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Half number of
Genetic material.
yeah.
Yes, right. See, haploidy, copy of genome. So if it is haploid, it only has one copy of genome and we write it as N, correct?
Yes.
Gametes are haploid. Similarly, spores are also haploid with some exceptions, but almost all spores are haploid. You have to remember that. Okay, spores are haploid. Now write down. Spores are single celled, of course, they have to be single celled. So spores are more like gametes, right? But they behave like seeds. Can you now see the difference?
Yeah.
Gametes need to fuse first. So they have to undergo fertilization, they have to fuse, they have to make a zygote, then that zygote develops into embryo, embryo develops into organism. A complex process. Seed, we simply put seed in the soil and seed grows, right?
Yes.
But seed is multicellular and gametes are unicellular, right? Here, spores are unicellular, but they behave like seeds. Wherever they fall, they do not need anything else to fuse with. They can just germinate if the conditions are favorable, correct?
Yes.
So write down, spores are single celled. Spores are single celled, so they are haploid. They are single celled structures, and they may or may not be motile. What do we mean by the term motile?
Movable.
Yes, that can move. Now, how can a spore move?
Through air, through water.
Through air or through, yes, through air, everything which is non-motile can also move. Through wind, right? So
Yes.
even, is a paper motile or non-motile?
It's non-motile.
But it moves through air, right?
Yeah.
So when I say motile, I mean motile by choice. It has structures that help the spore in movement. Okay, feather-like things attached to it, or something that can help it to move in water, right? So
Yes.
most of the time, these in some cases they can be motile, but in other cases they are non-motile. Okay. Now write down
Okay.
next thing. Types of spores. That is asked in entrances. So types. Do you remember in case of chlamydomonas above, we discussed when we were discussing asexual reproduction, even in your NCRT, it's given that chlamydomonas produce zoospores. Zoospores.
Yes, a zoospores.
Yes, you must have read these terms: zoospores, aplanospores, etc. So let's first discuss zoospores. So this is one type of spores. Zoospores. So the word zoo comes from zoo.
Um,
You go to a zoo, right? To see what?
yeah, zoology, zoos.
What is zoology? Study of?
It's study of zoo. It's study of animals. Animals.
Yes, right. It's study of zoo. Yes, it's study of animals. So zoo comes from animals. Wherever the word zoo is in biology, it means related to animals. Now these are zoo spores because these spores behave like they are animals. And what do animals do? They can move, right?
Yes.
Correct? Yes. So zoospores are motile. So write down. Zoospores have flagella and they are motile. What is a flagella?
Thread-like
Thread-like, tail-like structure which helps in movement. Okay. Bacteria also has flagella. So this flagella moves like a rotating rotor and it helps the cell go forward. So spores that look like this with a flagella are called zoospores. Is it clear?
Yes.
Next point, write down about zoospores. They do not have a cell wall, a proper cell wall. So they have a cell membrane, but do not have a proper cell wall. So they lack a proper cell wall. What is cell wall for basically? What does cell wall do?
It protects the cell from outer.
Anything which, yes, right. So biology is very logical. Okay, let's think. Everything that has evolved is not like, it's by magic or it's just how it is. It must be having a reason. Why it evolved is a different thing, but how and what evolved can be answered. Now let's say there are two organisms and both need protections. All sorts of organisms, spores, gametes, cells need protection, right?
Yes.
So they will develop something or the other for protection. Now if I ask you, Zed, if you want to protect yourself, a danger came and you want to protect yourself, what are the two things you can do?
I can defend myself or I can fight.
Defending is fighting, right? Either you can defend or you can run away.
Or I can do.
Yes, right? So if you can move away from the danger, again you are protected, right?
Yeah.
If you can face it and defend yourself, you are protected, right?
Yes.
This is what biology also do. So if you have a cell wall, most of the time plants have a cell wall, animals don't have a cell wall, right? Because
Yes,
plants cannot move and protect itself. So their cells need a rigid cell wall that is difficult to break chemically or anything. otherwise. But animals can just move away and protect itself, correct?
Yes.
Similarly, these zoospores have a flagella, so they are motile, so they can move away from the danger. That's why they do not have a proper cell wall. Make sense?
Yeah.
So will you remember these things now?
Yes.
No need to mug it up. If it has a flagella, it can move, so it lacks a cell wall. Okay, so write down certain examples of organisms that produce zoospores. In plants, you have algae, you know, which is Chlamydomonas. Chlamydomonas is a very interesting organism because it behaves both like a plant and an animal. So example is Chlamydomonas. This is in your NCERT also. Chlamydomonas. It is an algae. And algae, what are algae? Algae are the simplest kind of plants. Okay. So it has chlorophyll. Chlamydomonas have chlorophyll. That's why they look green. So during the day, they can just do photosynthesis and provide themselves with food. Is it clear? Just like what plants do.
Yes.
But Chlamydomonas also have flagella. During the night, when there is no sunlight and they cannot do photosynthesis effectively, they start behaving like animals. So they can move around and eat and get smaller things which are smaller than them. They can predate on them. Is it clear? So Chlamydomonas is an algae, but it behaves both like a plant and an animal. You can write it down in a bracket. Make a star on Chlamydomonas. It's very interesting organism for research purposes also. Chlamydomonas behave both like a plant and an animal, but it is an algae basically with chlorophyll. Okay. And the second example is albugo. Albugo is a fungus. Okay.
Okay.
So a plant and a fungus, both are examples that produce zoospores. Next is a planospore. Now, planospores are, first, they are different from zoospores because they cannot move. Okay, so they are non-motile. Is it clear? And
yes,
secondly, they are made from a vegetative part, any part of that organism, which is a vegetative cell. Okay. And write down about planospores. These spores are non-motile, which means they cannot move. These spores are non-motile. Write down. And next, they are generated from a vegetative cell. A vegetative cell. They are generated from a vegetative cell.
okay,
Okay. And, example says, I remember one which is Vaucheria. 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 Vaucheria is I think it's an algae. Will you confirm this, Zed, for me?
yes,
Just confirm Vaucheria, which is a algae, and you will please find other examples. Two which I remember is Vaucheria and Hematococcus, which have been asked in entrances. Now also I'm making a star here. You have to check it if it's a algae, and hematococcus, if it's an algae, it has to be a fungus, a lower fungus.
Vocariia is algae. Okay.
Okay, did you confirm? Is it an algae?
Yes, a green algae.
Yes, right. Yes, it's a green algae. So that's I'm thinking. It's a green algae. And is hematococcus a lower fungus? Check it out. Hematococcus is the second example. Because plants and fungus only majorly produce these spores. So I wanted to give one example of plant in each and one of fungus. Are you also checking for hematococcus? Should I wait? Is that? Are you there, Zed? Am I audible? Am I audible, Zed? Just say yes or no. You are mute if you are speaking. Okay, get back to me. Yes, you're audible now.
Okay.
Yes, what happened?
So it is also an algae. Hematococcus.
Hematococcus is an algae? It should not be an algae.
Let me see again. It is a genus of algae. The family Hematococcus member of group are common cause of pin something. Okay, let me see again.
Hematococcus.
Hematococcus. It is showing algae only.
Vocariia is an algae, right? You are sure?
Yeah, it is an algae.
If this is an algae, then both are algae. Okay. I have to find an example for fungus then. Okay, so you do one thing, find examples for fungus for aplanospores. Okay. Yeah. So I'm rewriting this as an algae. Trusting you, okay?
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So yes, please. Yes, there.
Yeah.
Yes.
Here is an example like Aperinospores fungus. So yeah, they are okay. They have not given any example.
Okay, but they might ask in entrances. Okay.
Yeah.
So most of the times it's difficult to remember all the examples, but it's good to remember if something is common and very famous or normal thing around. Okay, so they often ask those.
So can I ask one thing? Like Hematococcus full name is Hematococcus pluvialis.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. And Chlamydomonas is the example of Aperinospores, and Vocariia produce Aperinospores. So yeah.
Yes. Chlamydomonas produces zoospores, okay? Because their spores are motile. If they are producing aplanospores, that is very rare, but they often ask you in zoospores.
Yes.
For NCRT also, Chlamydomonas is given in zoospores, so I'm not going for rare or exceptions because normally they will ask Chlamydomonas for a zoospore because in NCRT also they have shown a flagella in the zoospores of Chlamydomonas. If you see a figure is there in your NCRT, okay? That's why.
Yes.
Okay. Just 1 second. Okay, so let's move forward. So is spore formation clear, Hiba? Is it clear to you as well? Any doubts, Hiba? No? Okay, thank you. Oh, I could hear you this time. Glad. If you are facing sometimes any issues regarding speaking up, or if you're not able to speak, then you can write, okay, in the chat. If you have any question, just interrupt me anytime and ask questions. Otherwise, Zed will just ask all his doubts and you will be hearing his doubts. So if you have your own doubts, please do ask, okay, Hiba? Do not hesitate. You can write your doubts also in the chat.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Good. So write down. After completing asexual reproduction, let me do some questions with you. So the question comes is, what are the advantages? We have already talked about the advantages of asexual reproduction, right? But just write
Yes,
this
sir.
for your board exams. Write down what give advantages for asexual reproduction. Sometimes we forget all the advantages, so let's list it out. So there are 4-5 advantages for asexual reproduction. Okay, tell me the basic one which you know, Zed. It will also tell me if you know all of them. Something like
They produce like genetic variation in
they
offsprings.
do
I'm
not
sorry.
produce.
They do not.
Asexual. If it is asexual, it's just clones copying.
Yes, yes.
How can they produce genetic variation?
Opposite.
Yes. So if you write that, you're gone. No one can save you.
Okay.
Okay. So one thing is that there is no genetic variation, right?
No genetic.
But that cannot be advantage, no? That is a disadvantage.
So only one parent is needed. This can be advantage.
Yes. So you can write mates are not required.
Okay.
So the organism do not have to find for the other parent or look for the other sex. So mates are not required. That is an advantage. Yes. Good. Next, what is the other advantage?
It is faster than sexual reproduction.
Yes, faster process as compared to. So you always have to write as compared to sexual reproduction. And
Then they can no.
another advantage is, see, what is the advantage between photocopying your document and rewriting your document? If I ask you to submit an
Photocopy.
assignment,
Yeah.
and you have two ways. If I ask you that, okay, anything from the internet will also work, so you will just print it out and give it to me. But if I ask you handwritten assignments are only required, then you have to sit the whole night and write it, right?
Yes.
So in which mode more copies can be produced in less amount of time?
Photocopy.
Yes. So in sexual reproduction also, a lot of progenies, a large number of offsprings can be produced in less time, right?
Yes.
Third advantage is large number of offsprings can be produced in less time. Okay. Then any other?
It allows for rapid population.
Yeah, that is large number of offsprings in less time. Just in other words, we are saying the same thing. So if there is a large number of offsprings, then population is going to grow rapidly.
So it does not need like mobility of gametes.
Yes, so gametes are not at all required. So you can just say that also comes under faster process as compared to sexual. One thing that I can think of is it can occur in all sorts of environments, right? Remember, we have seen sexual reproduction may not happen if the environment is not favorable, right? See, if organisms are hungry, they do not have water, there is lots and lots of heat, they are about to die, they will not go to do sexual reproduction, right? Because first, it is very energy consuming. Second, it's a complex process. Third, you need to find a mate, and everyone is under unfavorable conditions. They are looking for shelter and protection, right? Correct or not?
Yes, sir.
Whereas we have seen that there are asexual modes like spore formation that can actually happen during even unfavorable conditions, right? So write down.
Yeah.
It occurs in all in various environments. It can occur in various environments, favorable or unfavorable both. Is it clear? So these are the 4 advantages that I can think of, and I think it's more than enough. Is it clear, Hiba?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Now let's also talk about the disadvantages, if there are any. So one is we already have figured out. What is the disadvantage? There is no genetic variation, right? Which means I can write down lack of genetic diversity, correct? If there is no genetic diversity, then diverse genes will not be formed. So lack of genetic diversity is the first disadvantage. Anything else?
Like population is difficult to control.
Population is difficult
Population number can be difficult to control.
Yes. So, but controlling population is a disadvantage for humans. Okay. So whenever we think about biology, we should not think it like humans. We are like more than 700 crores on the planet, and we are taking all the resources. So there is no food, no employment. So resources are depleting. So that's why it has become a problem for us and for the whole planet. But biologically, if a species is flourishing, that is not a problem, right? That is a good thing. But we are flourishing way beyond because there is nothing to check us. Normally what happens, there's a balance in nature. So there can never be too many deers in a forest because tigers, lions, leopards, jaguars will always keep a check on their population by eating them, right?
Yeah.
And there can never be too many lions also because they also fight for territorial regions. 15 male lions cannot live at one place. They always have their territories, right, marked. And there can also not be too much of grasslands because deers, cattle, they will keep grazing it. Correct? So everything stays.
Sir, are you muted?
Sorry, what?
Please check.
What's that? Are you saying something to me?
Sir, now.
Okay. So I was telling that every species remains in a balance, a delicate balance in nature because there is something above it which can predate on it, and there is something below it on which it predates, right? But humans have evolved such that they have made artificial environment for themselves. So nothing can just predate us normally because we do not live in jungles anymore. So we are not at the end where we can be predated by tigers or lions. Okay. So we are not dying before our ages. We are dying because of accidents and diseases, but we are too many. And we are taking care of each other. We are living together. We are making resources for each other. So that is something very different from what other organisms do. So that's why it become a problem for us. But population control cannot be used for biological references. So what other disadvantage can you think of?
Like if one offspring is having a disease, so every offspring will have a disease, same to same.
Yes, but you are right, but wrong. Let's not talk about disease. Let's talk about adaptation.
Okay.
Disease can also get from pathogens. So if one offspring got attacked by bacteria, does not mean all the offsprings will get attacked by bacteria, right?
Yeah.
What you mean to say, I understood your point, is that if one offspring is vulnerable to something, all are vulnerable to that thing, right?
Yes.
So they are unable to adapt to the changing environment. Perfect. Write down the second disadvantage. And the second disadvantage is linked to the first disadvantage because there is lack of genetic diversity. So they are unable to adapt to environmental changes. So write down unable to adapt to changing environment. Perfect. So see, you understood why it is very important to use the right language when you are writing answers. You may think that you are writing correct and you are writing the correct concept, but in a wrong language. So if you say that if one gets disease, all of them will get disease, it's a wrong statement. But if you say that if one is vulnerable to a disease, all will be vulnerable to that disease, is a correct statement.
Yes.
Okay, sir? Yes. Anything else? Now the third disadvantage is linked to the second disadvantage, what I can think of. If they are unable to adapt to changing environment, then anything, even a small change in the environment can wipe out the whole species. Isn't it true?
Yes.
If there is a species that only reproduces through asexual modes, like let's say Hydra, okay? So the moment something can kill one Hydra, it can kill all the Hydras. And if that environmental factor can reach everywhere, it can eliminate Hydra from everywhere, correct? Yes or
Yes.
no? Yes. So write down a single change in the environment or a small change in the environment small change in the environment can eliminate the entire species. Can eliminate entire species. Is it clear? Make sense?
Yes.
Okay. So I think we have covered everything that we needed to cover. Okay, let us do, because we have do you have any doubts? So I'm going to discuss and cover with you some questions, some very important questions from this topic. So do you have any doubt you want to ask? Because I will be asking questions to both of you now, Hiba and Zaid. So I give you 2-3 minutes. Okay, take 3 minutes. And in 3 minutes, I'll be asking you things. So in these 3 minutes, look at all your notes for asexual reproduction, starting from budding, fission, fragmentation, regeneration, vegetative propagation, tissue culture, spore formation, everything. And I'll be asking you questions. If you have any doubts, let me know. Today we'll finish this otherwise. See all your notes and let me know if you have any doubts. Questions.
Sir, no doubt.
Yes, Zed, please. Tell me, what is the doubt?
Sir, no doubt.
So one question, this is from course. Should I start with questions now? Achha, you have 1 more minute. Take your time. I will also suggest both of you to develop this habit on your own, that whatever exams you are going to give, if it is school examinations, sure it will be boards and entrances, right? So start looking for the papers, right, from previous years, what type of questions they ask from this particular topic. Is it clear?
So chapter wise, it is not like it is not there, like, but we have to find it.
There are resources which have compiled things in a chapter wise manner. You have to just look for it. The world is open, internet is free. Go.
Yes.
Even if you find 5 or 10 question papers from last 10 years, let's say, of the boards, the board which you are going to give. What is your board's at? Is it CBSE?
Yeah, CBSE.
Hiba, for you? Hiba.
Sorry, sir.
Which is your board? What is your school board? CBSE?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so for both it's CBSE. So mine was also CBSE, and you can just go and find out the questions sets from previous, let's say, make a folder of last 5 years and see that in every question paper, what if they have asked a question from this topic, what is the question most of the times. Okay, that will help you prepare this chapter well. So preparing for boards is easier than preparing for entrances, because sometimes for boards you can just pinpoint areas from where they like to ask you questions. For entrances, it's like you have to read a lot and understand a lot. So that's why we spend time in discussion, so that it goes in your head and you don't have to mug it up. Okay. Okay. So this one question, and I think Zed, you will answer the first question. Okay.
Okay.
Question is, what are the 2 characteristics of amoeba and yeast that favor asexual reproduction in them? So the question is asking, you can write down this question, write down. What are the 2 characteristics of, both of you write down the question. What are the 2 characteristics of amoeba and yeast that favor asexual reproduction in them? It's a 2 marker. Zed, what do you think? What will you answer?
So can you repeat characteristics of amoeba and yeast?
What are the 2 characteristics of amoeba and yeast? So for both you have to give 2 characteristics that favor asexual reproduction in them.
Okay.
So both have something in common, right? This is what the question is asking. You don't have to write separately for amoeba and separately for yeast. If it is asking for amoeba and yeast, it is giving you a hint already. The question is giving you a hint that look for common things between these 2. So what will you answer, Zed?
So they can form like they can divide easily and quickly.
Yes, you will say first thing they are, but why can they divide easily and quickly? Because they are unicellular. Both of them are unicellular, right? Amoeba and yeast both are unicellular, right, Zed? You are not audible to me if you are speaking. Is Zed audible to you, Hiba?
No, sir.
No. Okay. I think. Okay. So the point is, first point you will write. Hiba, are you writing this answer as well?
Yes, sir.
So you will write down they are unicellular organisms and can divide quickly. Okay. And what is the second point you will write, Hiba? Zed, I think, dropped out. He will be joining back. So you tell me, what is the second characteristic feature? So one thing is they are unicellular and they can divide quickly. So is there anything else? Because they have asked 2 things. Two features. Any second feature you can think of between amoeba and yeast? Hiba. Hiba, are you there?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Can you think of any other thing? Both yeast and amoeba, just listen to me and say if you agree with this. Don't you think both yeast and amoeba are uniparental? Like they do not have the concept of a male and a female body, right?
Yes, sir.
Yes. So the second point will be both are uniparental. Uniparental. So they are unicellular and they are uniparental. So there is no concept of sex. And if there is no concept of different sexes, they cannot undergo sexual reproduction. So they only have to do and rely on asexual reproduction. Make sense, Hiba? Is it clear to you?
Yes, sir.
This is how you will write answers, and these are the questions that they ask. Okay. Okay, there is another question that has been asked because we're doing questions. Okay, so Hiba, the question is, it's from sexual reproduction. Okay, we'll come to, we have not done sexual reproduction yet. From asexual, the question is, why is a potato tuber considered a root, considered a stem, even though it is underground? Is it clear to you, the question, Hiba? A potato is underground, right? We have to dig a potato out. So the tuber which develops, why do we consider it as a stem tuber, not as a root tuber? What do you think is the reason? So write down the question first. You may find this question also in NCRT. I think it is in NCRT. And you will also find the answer there. Write down. Why is potato tuber? You're writing the question, Eva?
Yes, sir.
Yes, I'll dictate the question. Why is potato tuber considered a stem? Considered a stem, though it is an underground part. Though it is an underground part, justify your answer. Okay, justify your answer. Is the question clear to you?
Yes, sir.
So I'll be giving you certain questions today, and day after tomorrow, when you will come back to the next class, you will write their answers. Okay, you don't have to submit it, you have to write it, and we'll discuss it in the next class. Write down some more questions that I think are important. Yes, this is one example. What is the explain the relationship between the size of an organism and the lifespan of an organism. So size versus lifespan. explain the relationship between size of an organism and the lifespan of an organism, if there is any correlation or not, if there is, or whether there is any correlation or not. Done? Did you write the question, Hiba? Did you write the
Yes,
question?
sir.
Yes. Now remember, we have discussed something similar between life cycle and lifespan. We have discussed between life cycle and lifespan. I gave you this as a homework. So write down the B part of the question, the same question. Explain if there is a relationship, if there is any relationship. Explain if there is any relationship between life cycle and lifespan of organism. So the question can come two ways: size and lifespan, and life cycle and lifespan. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
So you have to write, you have to justify both the questions. So how many questions are there total? 4 now, right?
Yes, sir.
So for all these 4 questions, on Wednesday, you will be writing answers. Since I think Zed just dropped out, I think he lost connection or something. Okay, I'll try to convey these questions to him. But you have to write the answers for this question before you come to the next class. Okay?
Yes, sir.
To do that. Okay. Any doubts you want to ask me for the asexual mode, because that is finished today. Tomorrow I'll start with the sexual part, the sexual reproduction part. Any doubts?
No, sir.
Okay. Okay, then let's call it off for today. Take care, Eva. Bye bye. See you in the next class.
Thank you, sir.
Please keep revising.